now to a WSLS 10 special investigation. A few weeks ago, a man from Virginia involved in a child endangerment case agreed to a shortened sentence with the condition that he become sterilized, a controversial decision that drew national attention.
However, as it turns out, the idea of sterilization is nothing new in the Commonwealth. In fact, about 8,000 people have been sterilized by law since 1924. In fact, it was a measure started by the state to prevent what they classified as the mentally ill from having children.
Ananda Rochita talked to 4 victims who were all sterilized at the Central Virginia Training Center in Madison Heights and what they hope the state will do to compensate them for what they've lost.
In the early to mid-1900s, these now abandoned buildings at the Central Virginia Training Center in Madison Heights were filled with hundreds of children and young adults. They are brought to the hospital deemed unfit or mentally deficient for society.
Both of us up here at the same time.
Sadie and Janet Ingram, sisters raised in foster care, were dropped off as children here by their social workers.
All we could do was look out the windows.
They both described the training center as a jail, and by the time doctors told them they could leave, the sisters had unknowingly undergone surgery. Janet and Sadie were both sterilized.
But I didn't know what they were going to do to us. After it was all over, they took me back in my bedroom. I got in the bed, and I woke up, and my stomach was hurting. I said, something's wrong with my stomach. And I looked down there. It was a long cut, and it had staples in it.
Sterilization was a measure started by the state to prevent what they classified as the mentally ill from having children. To understand why this happened, we have to go back about 90 years when the Eugenical Sterilization Act was signed into law in Virginia. Under the act, people who were considered mentally ill, have any form of insanity, or even poor, had to be sent to state institutions like this one.
And I don't think it's right.
As a teenager, Lewis Reynolds was sterilized here because doctors diagnosed him with epilepsy after suffering temporary seizures when he was accidentally hit in the head with a rock.
And I think it's wrong for them to take my rights away from me having a family and grandchildren. I live by myself, and nobody there that helped me out whatsoever.
After leaving the center, he would serve 30 years in the Marine Corps, a man who the state labeled unfit to have children. However, during Reynolds' childhood, the eugenics movement spread across the country, and in Virginia, about 8,000 people were sterilized.
Do you remember a lot of what happened here?
Oh, yeah.
Rosemary Brooks is another victim. At 17 years old, this is a photo of her when she first came to the hospital. Today, Brooks walked us through the campus where she spent 11 years.
So do you remember all these old buildings too?
Oh, yeah.
Brooks says she lost her childhood here and now wants the state to do something to compensate her and other victims.
I said, why? You know, I said, nobody deserves to have this.
The victims are asking for compensation and for their medical records to be opened for family members if they pass away.
North Carolina approved compensation for $50,000 for each of the remaining sterilization victims. However, in Virginia, a similar compensation bill didn't get passed in the most recent budget. Mark Bold with the Christian Line Institute has been working with the victims to get them what they deserve.
And unfortunately, we can't undo the past wrong, so the only method we can do is provide them some type of financial compensation to say, I'm sorry.
So far, fewer than 10 victims have come forward, all between the ages of 60 to 90. They say their time on Earth is now limited.
Virginia, they're waiting for us to die.
Looking back at a place that houses dark memories.
Yeah, that was a hospital, same hospital.
And a stay at the Central Virginia Training Center that still haunts them decades later.
No, it took until 2002 for formal apologies from a governor, which was then Governor Mark Warner, now Senator. And I also talked to Governor Terry McAuliffe today, and he told me that this was a very horrible and shameful period in the history of Virginia.
But still no movement towards reparations.
What would be the next step?
Well, I asked Governor Terry McAuliffe that, and he told me that he can't comment on if he'll bring the bill back next year.